Okay, so let's make some Easter DIYs. Why am I sawing this cute flocked bunny in half? I know it seems a bit extreme, especially when I paid full price for it. I hope it works.
Let's take this giant flocked rabbit, a golden cake plate, and make the best cupcake stand and appetizer riser you've ever seen. Are you ready? Let's hop to it.
Okay, let me start at the beginning.
The first thing I want to do is mark exactly where I'm going to cut my bunny in half.
So I put my bunny on a Lazy Susan and stabilized a pencil and turned it around so that I would have an even line all the way across. Then I used an X-Acto knife to score it, and then my hacksaw to cut it in half.
All right. Woo. All right, success. He's in two halves. Now let me show you what I'm going to do. So the cake board is going to sit on top of this, and then the top half of my rabbit's torso sits on top of that. So that gives you an idea of exactly how he's going to look once I put him all back together. I am going to make a hole in the center of the bottom and the top. I can use a dowel rod to connect this to the platform and then to the top. I've taken a piece of electrical conduit pipe. I am putting that in the bottom. This dowel rod fits perfectly inside this piece of conduit pipe. I also need to drill a hole in the center of my cake plate. This is my new favorite tool that I got as a Christmas present. It's a benchtop mini cutoff saw. Isn't that nice? So now I have my pieces. My bottom piece with the dowel rod, my plate, and now my top half. Being able to take it apart, at least even the top half, will make it a lot easier for me to store.
So here I'm cutting strips of clear plastic that I'm going to glue around the edge of my platter. This will extend the lip so that I can glue more layers of trim on, and it also acts as a protective barrier because I'll be gluing lace onto it. Let me tell you about a fun little treat idea that I love making for just about every holiday. These are carrot sticks made out of pretzel rods using some edible grass that I found, and flavored meltables. I started by melting the candy coating and making the little toppers for my carrots using the edible grass. This way they have time to dry and harden before I do the rest of the carrot. They're really delicious and really cute.
So here is my scallop edge all the way around, and I have my little protective strip of plastic along my inside edge.
Okay, it's time to start the fun part, gluing on all the pieces of trim and appliques. I like this white because it looks like a high stand-up Victorian collar when it's glued all the way around. So these 4 gold appliques are actually from a large piece of trim that I cut apart, and these eggs are foam eggs that I cut in half. I'll show you some of that later. I think these will make great decorations around the torso of the rabbit. Now here's a pretty piece of white trim that has a little pleat and lace on the edge, so I'm going to glue that around to the base of the rabbit. So here's a pretty piece of gold lace trim that I'm going to trim around the bottom edge. This means that I can glue it to the bottom of the torso and it can lay flat onto the platter. Now, back to my eggs. First, I marked and scored them with an X-Acto knife so that I could make sure I was cutting them in half right down the center. Now, this little protective glove is actually for use with knives and fishing hooks, but it works really well on craft projects, keeps my hands from getting cut up. I actually had 5 choices in colors in these eggs, and I debated which would be the best to use, but I ultimately decided on pink, yellow, blue, and green. First, I glue the applique on, then clip off the sequins and the beads. I know, it's a shame to do it, but it's not going to show, and it just gets in the way. Glue on the egg, and look, presto! Looks great. So here's another piece of trim that I'm going to do basically the same thing with. It looks just like the one I used on the torso, but I'm going to use this around the edge of my platter. So on my silicone mat, I'm going to glue the eggs down. This way they don't stick to my table. And now, I'm going to glue them, draping down the front edge of my platter. Now, to make sure that I'm doing this and they're exactly opposite each other, I'm using this little metal tool that I have that's actually part of a paintbrush holder that I took apart. This is great because I know my points are exactly opposite each other. No measuring, and I can't screw it up. While I'm gluing the eggs on, let me show you the start of my table setting. I'm gonna roll up a napkin from either end first, and then put a cardboard egg in the middle with a special treat inside. I'm using a little binder ring as my napkin ring, and it's easy to remove. There, bunny in the center of a plate. Now, doesn't that just say Easter to you? Now I'm actually using 8 eggs, so now I can go into the spaces in between. They're all perfectly spaced, and I love the way they look draping down the edge. So here is a piece of white fancy trim that has these little rosettes on it. So I'm clipping them off to use them as decoration.
So I have this necklace set that I bought at some costume jewelry store. So I'm going to tear it apart so that it is just its different components, because I find there's so many different pieces that make up jewelry like this, and they're all always really interesting once you take them apart, and you can spread them out over a whole project like this and add a lot of instant high-end glam without spending a whole lot of money. I think this set cost me maybe $25 tops, which I think is pretty good as these things go. And again, it comes from my years of costume design and needing things like this for various projects. And sometimes if I found something that was a good price, I would just buy it and hang on to it until I found the right project for it. I think this was one of those things. Now I get to decide exactly where I want to put these elements. So here is my final mock-up of the bunny, and you can get a good idea of how the bunny is going to look completely finished. In the mock-up, I just pinned all of the jewels and the rest of the applique pieces on, and now I'm actually going to go ahead and attach them. When I'm using jewelry like this, I use both Gorilla Glue and hot glue. The hot glue will hold it in place instantly so that it'll stay in place while I'm moving things around. The Gorilla Glue will then dry and make sure that the jewelry has a permanent hold. Here's another really cute idea that's going to look really great with my entire display. They look just like flowers, they're super easy to make, and can have a hidden treat inside. It's sort of like an Easter egg hunt, but not just for kids. Here are another couple of layers that I'm putting on, starting at the head of my rabbit. This will be a main focal point. And then this gold vine will swirl around, tying together all of the jewels as if though they're flowers growing on the vine, all the way around my wabbit. Hey, I just started an email list and I'd love for you to sign up. Find the link below.
So to tie in my whole bunny decor for the season, I found another bright yellow bunny that I just loved, and found these clear glass eggs with my Fitz and Floyd cardinals that I've had for years. This was perfect to celebrate my parents' 61st wedding anniversary. They got married right around Easter.
Hey, you made it! Thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure and subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Also, tell your friends about us. Happy Easter! Stormy, what are you doing? Stormy!